You know that gut-twisting moment when your 4-year-old casually exposes your husband's affair during a quiet Sunday brunch? Right. There's no Ivy League seminar that prepares you for the moment your toddler dismantles your marriage over Belgian waffles. That was my reality last weekend. My daughter, Lila, looked up from her strawberry-topped waffle and called me Claire instead of Mommy. The elegant Waterford crystal suddenly felt cheap, like dollar store plastic, as my in-laws froze mid-bite and my husband, Ethan, turned the exact shade of panic Pottery Barn would label adulterer's porcelain. I'm Natalie Carter, 36, editor-in-chief at Luminous magazine, the glossy award-winning publication everyone pretends to read, but mostly just displays on their reclaimed wood coffee tables. Apparently, I've become the unsuspecting wife in a Connecticut suburb version of a Lifetime drama. Sweetie, I'm Mommy, not Claire, I told Lila with my most convincing pedia meeting smile, the kind that hides an emotional landslide behind a polite flash of teeth. But Lila wasn't done. You look like Claire, she said, stabbing her waffle with the confidence of a miniature prosecutor. Claire has pretty hair like you. She's Daddy's girlfriend. She sleeps in Daddy's room when you go on your important business trips. The silence was so dense it could have been sliced with a butter knife. Ethan choked on his $7 artisanal cold brew, while my mother-in-law, Helen, who spent 8 years implying that my career is the reason we only have one child, suddenly found her calling in repositioning the seasonal table runner. Lila kept going, blissfully unaware of the bomb she dropped over our handcrafted farmhouse table. Claire makes unicorn pancakes, she said cheerfully. And she has sparkly nails. Can I have sparkly nails too, Mommy? The unicorn pancakes stung far more than I'd like to admit. I've spent years cutting heart-shaped pancakes for Lila. Yet somehow I've been dethroned by mythological breakfast creatures. Ethan, I said evenly, my tone the verbal equivalent of a Xanax commercial. Who's Claire? My husband of 8 years, the man I'd met at a publishing conference in Boston and who'd proposed at the Pierre in New York with a 2.3-carat diamond that maxed out his credit card, suddenly found a desperate interest in his napkin. He folded it into tinier and tinier squares, as though he might vanish with it. She's probably talking about Claire from daycare, he stammered, voice cracking like a teenager's. You know how kids confuse people. Except Lila doesn't go to daycare. She attends Fairfield Montessori, the preschool that costs more per year than my entire college education, specifically chosen for what its glossy brochure called exceptional cognitive accuracy. Daddy, Claire's not from school, Lila corrected sweetly. She's the lady who works with you. The one who gave me the sparkly unicorn sticker for my reward chart. She said I'm the prettiest girl, just like my daddy is the handsomest daddy. My father-in-law, Gerald, a retired insurance executive who still wears a tie to Sunday brunch purely out of principle, suddenly remembered an urgent errand in his Lexus. Helen's bridge partner apparently sent her an emergency text, and Ethan developed a cough that could have qualified for a medical leave. Meanwhile, I sat there tallying the statistics of my own naivety: 47 late nights at the office, 16 emergency weekend meetings, and at least 9 business trips that mysteriously stretched an extra day or two. Turns out, I'd been living in an open marriage. I just hadn't received the memo. More syrup, sweetheart? I asked, sliding her the Vermont maple that costs as much per ounce as a decent bottle of whiskey. While Lila drowned her waffle, I glanced at Ethan's iPad, conveniently unlocked and logged into Instagram. There she was, Claire Donovan, recently appointed CFO of Fairfield Financial Partners, where Ethan just happened to be executive vice president. Her profile photo displayed flawless hair, a blinding smile, and I wish I were joking, a plate of unicorn-shaped pancakes captioned, Weekend Vibes. Brunch Queen. Nailed it. By the time Ethan returned from his self-imposed exile in the kitchen, I'd found 17 photos of them at company events, each one showing them standing closer than the last. In the most recent, his hand rested on the small of her back, that universal signal of possession more territorial than marking a hydrant. So, I said when he sat back down, face stretched into what he must have thought was composure, unicorn pancakes, huh? That's quite a skill set for a chief financial officer. The color drained from him faster than our property value would once I was finished. Sylvie, it's not what you think, he started, the classic mating call of the caught spouse. Not here, I cut in smoothly, nodding toward Lila, who was now arranging her strawberries into a smiley face, blissfully unaware that she'd just blown up my marriage with the precision of a glitter bomb at a funeral. Ethan exhaled, mistaking my calm for mercy. He didn't know that I'd already screenshotted every incriminating image and sent them to myself. Yale may not teach a course in surviving infidelity, but it definitely trained me in research methodology and strategic execution. My in-laws reappeared with synchronized politeness, faces composed in awkward neutrality. "Well, this has been lovely," Helen said, reaching for her Burberry coat. "But we should really get going. Bridge club, important match today." "On Sunday?" I asked pleasantly. "It's a special tournament," she said, eyes fixed anywhere but mine. "Very prestigious." "Of course," I replied sweetly. "Almost as prestigious as being named CFO at 32 with only 3 years of experience. Claire must be quite the prodigy." Silence thickened again, broken only by Lila's innocent request for a unicorn. After they left, Ethan tried his hand at damage control. "Sylvie, I can explain. Claire is just a colleague." "Not now," I interrupted. "I have a feature due tomorrow. We'll discuss your colleague, her unicorn pancakes, and her overnight stays in our house while I was in Chicago closing the Cartier ad deal. Tonight after Lila is asleep." What Ethan didn't realize was that I wasn't planning to edit any feature at all. I was not editing a feature that night. I was researching Connecticut's divorce laws, texting my friend Camille, and constructing a plan sharp enough to slice through Ethan's lies. Camille wasn't just any friend. She was the most relentless family attorney in Fairfield County. Together, we were about to turn Claire's unicorn pancakes into child's play. Because while Ethan spent his nights working late, he'd forgotten one crucial truth: I don't just edit stories for a living. I control narratives. And this one was about to take a direction he'd never see coming. Putting a 4-year-old to bed after she accidentally outs her father's affair is like trying to fold a fitted sheet. Possible in theory, maddening in practice. Lila demanded for bedtime stories, 2 glasses of water, and a full lecture on why unicorns don't visit Connecticut. By the time I gently closed her door, I'd mentally written and deleted 17 different versions of my confrontation speech. I found Ethan in his office typing furiously, probably Googling something along the lines of how to convince your wife that your girlfriend's sleepovers are professional development or nearest extended stay hotels with discreet front desks. I leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. "Claire Donovan," I began. "Chief Financial Officer. Unicorn pancake enthusiast. Tell me, does HR know about your mentoring style?" Ethan slammed his laptop shut so fast you'd think I'd caught him streaming something illegal. "Sylvie, it's not what you think." "Really?" I replied, voice cool and steady. "Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you've been sleeping with your recently promoted coworker in our bed, while I've been out securing the advertising deals that pay for Lila's Montessori tuition. So please enlighten me. What is it, exactly?" "It's complicated," he muttered. The classic anthem of cheaters and tax evaders alike. "Complicated?" I repeated, tapping my Tory birch flat against the hardwood floors we'd refinished last summer during our so-called 5-year plan. "You know what's complicated? Quantum physics. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Not explaining to our daughter why her father's special friend makes superior breakfast foods." Ethan dragged a hand through his perfectly styled $85 haircut, the same one he'd clung to since business school. "It just happened. Sylvie, you're always working, always traveling." I cut him off with a bitter laugh. "Ah, so that's it. My ambition drove you into the arms of another woman. How original." I stepped closer. "Did Claire just fall onto our West Elm bed, Ethan? Was it an accident involving spilled pancake mix and poor balance? Or did you invite her here while I was in Chicago landing the Cartier deal that bought your precious Tesla?" He looked wounded, as if I were the villain in his story. "You're making this sound sordid." "No," I snapped. "You made it sordid. I'm just narrating the plot." I unlocked my phone and scrolled through the screenshots. 17 company events, each one documenting their growing intimacy. "Did the photographer also catch the exact moment you decided fidelity was optional?" "It wasn't planned," he insisted weakly. "Claire and I just connected. She understands the pressure I'm under." I laughed again, hollow and sharp. "The pressure you're under? Please, Ethan. Tell me more about the unbearable weight of having a corner office and catered lunches while I juggle running a national magazine and raising our daughter. Before he could reply, the doorbell rang, cutting through the tension like a divine cue. Ethan looked relieved until he saw the smirk on my face. I checked my phone. That'll be Camille. Your lawyer friend? His voice wavered. Why is she here at 9 o'clock on a Sunday night? I shrugged casually. I thought it might be nice to have a witness when I changed the locks. Ethan blanched. You can't do that. This is my house too. Actually, I corrected sweetly, it's my house. If you'd bothered reading the refinancing paperwork last year, you'd know I'm the sole owner. Remember when you were too busy to attend the closing and signed over power of attorney? Turns out, laziness and infidelity make a spectacular combination. The look on his face priceless. Worth every penny of Lila's exorbitant tuition. When I opened the door, Camille stood there armed with locksmith tools, a bottle of Veuve Clicquot, and the expression of a woman who takes professional joy in dismantling liars. Evening, Ethan, she said briskly as she swept past him. I brought some light reading: separation agreement, preliminary asset division, and a proposed custody schedule. She dropped a manila folder on his desk with surgical precision, like delivering evidence to the scene of a crime. This is ridiculous, Ethan sputtered. You can't just. Oh, but I can, I interrupted smoothly. While you were teaching Claire the art of unicorn pancakes, I was ensuring every cent of our finances was protected. Did you know Connecticut is an equitable distribution state? Camille briefed me this afternoon. Ethan's face cycled through shock, anger, and disbelief faster than Lila deciding between ice cream flavors. You're overreacting. We should discuss this privately. Like how you privately discussed our marriage with Claire. Or privately invited her into our home. I gestured toward the kitchen. Tell me, did she use my Williams-Sonoma cookware for those famous pancakes? Or did she bring her own spatula? These are the questions that haunt me. Camille examined the front door lock with professional detachment. Standard Schlag, she murmured. I can have it changed in 20 minutes. The back door might take longer. Ethan looked between us, finally realizing that this was not a negotiation. Where am I supposed to go tonight? I smiled saccharine sweet. I hear Claire's place is lovely, though it might be awkward explaining why you're suddenly homeless. Sorry, honey, turns out my wife isn't as clueless as we thought. Could you make me some consolation pancakes? His face flushed crimson, the perfect shade of guilt meeting humiliation. You're enjoying this, aren't you? Ethan asked, his voice somewhere between anger and disbelief. About as much as I enjoyed hearing my daughter call me by your girlfriend's name, I replied smoothly, my expression unwavering. Now I suggest you pack an overnight bag. Just the essentials. And don't forget your toothbrush. Dental hygiene is important, especially when you'll need to orally explain to your boss why you're about to be the centerpiece of a sexual harassment investigation. Ethan froze, the color draining from his face. You wouldn't. Wouldn't I? I tilted my head. Your company's anti-fraternization policy is crystal clear, especially about relationships between executives and subordinates. Tell me, did Claire's promotion come before or after she started flipping pancakes in my kitchen? Because the board might find that timeline fascinating. In that instant, Ethan finally understood. I wasn't just angry. I was calculating. You'd ruin my career over this, he whispered. You'd ruin our family over unicorn pancakes, I countered. We all make choices, Ethan. Yours led to this moment. Mine lead to changed locks and a call to your company's ethics committee. As if summoned, Camille lifted her phone. Should I text Adrian? He's on the board at Fairfield Financial, right? We played golf last weekend. The mention of Adrian, the board's famously no-nonsense chairman, struck him like a lightning bolt. Without another word, Ethan trudged upstairs. 10 minutes later, he returned with a duffel bag and the hollow stare of a man who just realized his affair was about to cost him more than his Amex Black Card could handle. At the door, he made one final attempt. What about Lila? She needs her father. She does, I agreed evenly. She needs a father who respects her mother. When you figure out how to be that man again, we'll talk about visitation. One that doesn't involve your girlfriend's culinary talents. As he walked toward his Tesla, I called after him. Oh, and tell Claire her unicorn pancakes lack creativity. Everyone knows real magic requires glitter sprinkles. Then I closed the door on his stunned expression and leaned against it just as Camille popped open the champagne. Round one to Natalie Carter, she announced, pouring bubbly into coffee mugs since neither of us could remember where the flutes were. I raised mine. Oh, I know this is only the beginning, I said, clinking her mug. And I'm just getting started. What Ethan didn't realize was that I'd spent that afternoon doing more than consulting Camille about divorce proceedings. I'd also called my old college roommate, Renee, who, conveniently, now worked at Fairfield Financial's parent firm. And what she told me about Claire Donovan's meteoric rise to chief financial officer was about to make unicorn pancakes sound like the least scandalous part of this story. Monday mornings are universally cruel, but they're particularly vicious when you've only had 4 hours of sleep and are plotting the elegant dismantling of your cheating husband's life. After dropping Lila off at Montessori, where she promptly informed her teacher that Daddy has a sleepover friend named Claire who makes unicorn food, I drove to Luminous Magazine with a venti cold brew, and the kind of grim determination usually reserved for marathon runners and Black Friday shoppers. Tessa, my assistant, took one look at me and whispered, "Bathroom. Now." Inside, she locked the door and turned to me. "You look like you're either planning a murder or a magazine redesign, and I'm equally terrified of both." "Ethan is having an affair," I said flatly, reapplying my MAC Russian red lipstick like a surgeon preparing for an operation. With his newly promoted CFO. Lila outed them during brunch. Apparently, Claire makes unicorn pancakes when I'm out of town. Tessa's jaw dropped. "That absolute walnut. Please tell me you're destroying him." "I changed the locks last night," I said, fluffing my hair. "But that was just the appetizer. The main course? A 5-course revenge feast Gordon Ramsay would call spectacularly ruthless." Back at my desk, I called Renee, who'd promised to forward me something interesting. Minutes later, my inbox pinged with a set of confidential files on Fairfield Financial letterhead. "Christmas came early," I muttered. According to the documents, Claire Donovan's promotion to CFO had bypassed 3 more qualified candidates, including one woman with 12 years of tenure. The board had raised concerns, but Ethan had personally vouched for Claire's exceptional financial acumen, which apparently translated to makes whimsical breakfast foods. Even better, Claire had been granted signing authority on several accounts just 3 weeks after her promotion. Accounts linked to suspicious transfers to consulting firms that, upon inspection, didn't exist. I was so absorbed in reading that I nearly missed Ethan's 5th call of the morning. I ignored it, just as I'd ignored his 27 text messages that swung from apologetic, "I made a terrible mistake," to indignant, "You can't lock me out of my own house," to pitiful, "Please just tell me what clothes to bring to my meeting." Instead, I texted Camille. "Found something. Lunch. We met at an overpriced salad bar. The kind Ethan always complained about because real men need protein." I slid the files across the table while ordering sparkling water. Camille scanned the papers, her brow arching. "Your husband didn't just promote his girlfriend unnaturally fast. He also handed her financial control she's now misusing. That's not just an affair, Sylvie. That's a buffet of legal exposure." I smirked. "The question is, how do I leverage this without getting him arrested for financial impropriety? I want to destroy his career and relationship, not have Lila's father hauled off by federal agents." Camille's eyes gleamed. "Oh, this is going to be fun. Isn't the company's annual charity gala this Friday? The one where Ethan is accepting that leadership award?" I nodded. "The Fairfield Financial Philanthropy Ball. I even helped him write his acceptance speech. He kept stumbling over the part where he thanks his supportive wife and family. Now I know why." "Perfect," Camille said, tapping the documents. "We don't need the SEC. Just the board. All it takes is a whiff of impropriety, a little corporate blood in the water." By the time we finished our overpriced salads, we had crafted a plan so precise, it could have been published in Harvard Business Review under the title, "Creative Destruction, Dismantling Infidelity with Strategic Precision." That afternoon, I placed a call to the event planner for the upcoming philanthropy gala, Laura Bennett. Years ago, I'd featured her in Luminous Magazine for her pioneering approach to sustainable event design. "Laura, it's Natalie Carter," I said brightly. I'd love to surprise Ethan at the gala. I know I wasn't scheduled to speak, but I've prepared something special for his award presentation. Could you add me to the program? Delighted by what she assumed was a romantic gesture, Laura readily agreed. Of course. You'll go right after the chairman's introduction, 3 minutes before Ethan receives the award. Perfect, I said. And one more thing. Could you seat me next to Adrian Shaw at dinner? Ethan mentioned wanting me to discuss a potential magazine feature about his philanthropic work. With that arranged, I made my next call to Isla, who owned the most exclusive boutique in Fairfield. I need a dress for Friday, I told her. Something unforgettable. The kind of gown that makes men stammer and women take notes. My office phone flashed with my mother-in-law's name. Interesting timing. Helen, I answered pleasantly. What a surprise. Sylvie dear, she began, her voice soaked in manufactured sympathy. Ethan said you two had a misunderstanding. He's staying at the Marriott. Really a hotel? What will people think? Probably that he should have thought about accommodations before sleeping with his CFO in our bed, I said lightly, as if commenting on the weather. By the way, did you know about Claire before Lila's unicorn pancake revelation? Or was that a surprise for you too? The sharp inhale on the other end said everything. These things happen in marriages, dear, she finally offered. Gerald and I went through a similar patch when Gerald was sleeping with his secretary while you raised his children? I cut in sweetly. Is infidelity a Carter family tradition I missed in the wedding toast? Silence. Perhaps we should discuss this privately. Dinner tomorrow? She tried again. I'm afraid I'm busy preparing for the philanthropy ball, I replied. Ethan is receiving an award. You know I wouldn't miss it for the world. After hanging up, I turned to what mattered most, protecting Lila. I called her therapist, Dr. Porter, and scheduled an emergency session for Wednesday, explaining the situation carefully. By that evening, my plan was polished to perfection. 1. A devastating crimson dress that cost more than some people's mortgage. 2. A perfectly rehearsed 3-minute speech saved to my phone. 3. A reserved seat beside Adrian Shaw, who would receive an anonymous email about financial irregularities exactly 1 hour before the event. 4. Screenshots of Ethan and Claire's flirtatious social media posts. 5. A dossier on Claire's questionable financial activities. 6. A revised divorce agreement drafted by Camille. 7 new deadbolts on every door of my house. The only thing missing was peace of mind. During Lila's session, she'd asked quietly, "Did Daddy leave because I told about Claire?" That night, as I tucked her into bed, I whispered, "Daddy loves you very much. Grown-ups sometimes make mistakes, but none of this is your fault." Her little voice trembled. "Will Daddy come home?" "I don't know, sweetheart," I admitted, brushing her hair back. "But no matter what happens, we both love you more than anything in the world." After she drifted to sleep, my phone buzzed. A text from Ethan. "Please, can we talk before Friday? For Lila's sake." For a brief moment I considered it. Then I remembered the unicorn pancakes, the secret trips, and Claire's promotion. My fingers flew across the screen. "Absolutely. I'll see you at the philanthropy ball. I've prepared something special for your award presentation. I'm sure Claire will enjoy it too." I smiled, imagining the panic spreading across his face. The genius of my plan wasn't just in what I do, it was in making him wait to find out. As my grandmother always said, the anticipation of punishment is often worse than the punishment itself. Though in Ethan's case, I planned to make both equally excruciating. Friday arrived with all the drama of a Netflix finale. The Fairfield Yacht Club shimmered under soft amber lighting as Connecticut's financial elite arrived in luxury cars, worth more than most people's annual salaries. I'd spent the day transforming myself into a living weapon, a blowout that gleamed, makeup sharp enough to wound, and that red dress that radiated vengeance. My Uber pulled up at precisely 7:42 p.m. Late enough to command attention, early enough not to miss my cue. The driver gave a low whistle. Someone's about to have a very good night. Or a very bad one. "Oh, it's going to be spectacular," I said, adjusting my diamond earrings, the same pair Ethan had given me for our 5th anniversary. How poetic. Inside, the gala buzzed with champagne chatter and curated sophistication. A waiter offered me a glass, which I accepted with a smile that could melt gold and freeze blood simultaneously. Across the room I spotted Ethan in his Tom Ford tuxedo, forcing charm as he mingled with board members. When his eyes met mine, his glass stopped halfway to his lips. Beside him stood Claire Donovan, her smugness evaporating into panic. Her sleek black gown was elegant but safe, the fashion equivalent of store-bought pancake mix. I raised my glass and waved cheerfully before gliding to my assigned table. Adrian Shaw was already seated 62, sharp-eyed, and revered throughout the finance world as the industry's moral compass. The kind of man you wanted on your side. And the last person Ethan would want as an enemy. Sylvie Carter, I said, extending my hand with polished confidence. We met at the Governor's Economic Summit last year. Adrian Shaw smiled faintly and shook my hand. Of course. I remember. I enjoyed your magazine's exposé on sustainable investing. Very thought-provoking. Thank you, I replied, holding his gaze deliberately. I've always believed in bringing important matters into the light. Transparency is vital, in journalism and in finance. Wouldn't you agree? He studied me with the kind of sharp intuition that makes billionaires and predators nearly indistinguishable. Absolutely. Though not everyone appreciates having light shined into their darker corners. I imagine not, I murmured, sipping my champagne. Especially when those corners involve unicorn pancakes and questionable money transfers. His right brow lifted just slightly, the billionaire's equivalent of a jaw drop. I received a rather interesting anonymous email about an hour ago, he said carefully. Quite detailed. How curious, I mused, feigning mild surprise. Technology certainly makes anonymity convenient these days, just as it makes extramarital affairs and creative accounting easier to document. His expression shifted between admiration and alarm. Before he could reply, the chairman's voice boomed through the ballroom, calling the crowd to attention. Ethan was glancing around, pale and jittery, like a man who'd realized he'd brought a water pistol to a nuclear confrontation. Claire leaned close, whispering frantically in his ear, her manicured hand clutching his arm, until she noticed me watching and let go as though burned. The chairman smiled broadly. Before we present our Leadership Excellence Award to Ethan Carter, he announced, we have a special surprise. Ethan's wife, Sylvie Carter, editor-in-chief of Luminous magazine, would like to say a few words. A spotlight snapped on, finding me in the crowd. My crimson dress shimmered as I stood, every whisper following me to the podium. Ethan looked one heartbeat away from vomiting into the floral centerpiece. Thank you. I began, my voice calm, warm, deceptively composed. When my husband told me he was receiving this prestigious award, I knew I had to say something meaningful. I paused, smiling as his shoulders relaxed. Too soon. Leadership, I continued, takes many forms. In business, it's about integrity. In marriage, it's about honoring commitments. And in parenthood, it's about modeling the kind of behavior you'd want your children to emulate. The audience nodded in polite agreement. They didn't see the strike coming. Unfortunately, I said, voice steady as glass, my husband has failed spectacularly at all three. A collective gasp rippled through the ballroom. Ethan froze, eyes wide, a deer caught in the luxury headlights. You see, I went on, while Ethan was being nominated for this award, he was also promoting his mistress to chief financial officer, bypassing more qualified candidates, and granting her access to corporate accounts that have shown. I glanced down at my phone, scrolling casually. Approximately $2.3 million in transfers to shell companies over the last quarter. The murmur that followed was thunderous. Adrian Shaw set his champagne flute down with a deliberate clink. I didn't learn this through corporate espionage, I clarified. I learned it from our 4-year-old daughter, who happened to mention that Daddy's girlfriend, Claire, makes unicorn pancakes in our kitchen when I travel for work. Parenting tip: children are terrible secret keepers, but excellent witnesses. Across the room, Claire Donovan had gone ghost white. She began inching toward the exit, while Ethan sat frozen, his career imploding before dessert. Now I could elaborate, I said, on how Ethan let Claire play house in my kitchen while I was securing deals that paid for his Tesla, or how he lied about his late nights at the office. But instead, I'd rather focus on the leadership lesson. Behind me, the large screen flickered to life, displaying the internal financial reports Renee had sent. These suspicious transfers, I said smoothly, began 3 weeks after Claire's promotion. Copies have already been provided to the board, and out of an abundance of caution to the SEC. The room erupted. Chairs scraped. Whispers turned into outrage. Ethan finally stumbled to his feet, face contorted in panic. Sylvie, this is completely inappropriate. Inappropriate? I echoed, laughing once, sharp and elegant. You mean like sleeping with your subordinate? Misusing company funds? Or letting your girlfriend make breakfast for our daughter while pretending she's just a coworker? I glanced toward the audience. For those curious, yes, the pancakes were unicorn-shaped. Because nothing says, I'm having an affair with a married executive quite like whimsical breakfast art. Security began to close in on Claire, who was no longer pretending subtlety, heels clacking in retreat. In conclusion, I said sweetly, I'll be declining the honor of remaining married to Ethan Carter, effective immediately. Divorce papers are being delivered to his hotel suite at the Marriott tonight. And while I can't speak for Fairfield Financial Partners, I suspect his employment status may soon be under review. I turned toward him, locking eyes. Leadership is about accountability, Ethan. I'm sure that was covered in the sexual harassment training you must have slept through. I stepped down from the podium to silence, then a slow, uncertain clap. Adrian Shaw led it, his expression a cocktail of horror and admiration, and soon the room followed. As I walked past Ethan, I leaned close enough for only him to hear. The unicorn pancakes were a nice touch, I whispered. Very creative. Unfortunately for you, so am I. Security was already escorting Claire toward a side room, no doubt to face questions about those conveniently timed transfers. Ethan lunged after me, his composure gone. Sylvie, please. You've ruined everything. He hissed, grabbing my arm. I peeled his hand away with surgical precision. No, Ethan. You ruined everything when you decided our vows had an asterisk for breakfast-making financial officers. I just told the truth. Adrian appeared beside us, calm and immovable. Ethan, he said evenly, the board needs a word. The tone made refusal impossible. As Ethan was led away, glancing back at me with disbelief and fury, I felt a gentle tap on my shoulder. Laura, the event planner, smiled nervously. That wasn't exactly the romantic tribute we discussed, she whispered, though her eyes sparkled with admiration. Oh, but it was, I said with a serene smile. A tribute to honesty, accountability, and the remarkable power of unicorn pancakes to topple empires. Outside, I slid into my waiting Uber and texted Camille. Mission accomplished. Picking up Lila soon. Also, possible SEC fallout incoming. Her reply appeared seconds later. Already on it. And by the way, you're trending on Twitter. Unicorn. As the car pulled away from the yacht club, I watched the last glittering reflections of the Fairfield shoreline blur past the window, and with them the final remnants of Ethan's professional life. Through the tinted glass, I saw him standing under the portico, phone pressed to his ear, trying to salvage a reputation already in freefall. For the first time in months, I felt something close to calm. Not happiness, not yet, but peace. The steady, grounded kind that comes when you finally reclaim the story that was stolen from you. Unicorn pancakes might have been whimsical, but revenge served cold, with a side of public humiliation, was the true gourmet experience. 3 months later. Locals still whisper about it, the unicorn pancake massacre. But for me, life has settled into a comfortable new rhythm, like those expensive jeans that pinch at first but soon fit just right. Lila and I traded the sterile Fairfield mansion for a cozy Craftsman in Westport. The divorce settlement was, as Camille described it, poetically generous. Funny how cooperative men become when the SEC hovers nearby. Ethan surrendered the house, the Tesla, and agreed to alimony so generous that Camille actually did a small victory dance across her office rug. You could have taken him for more, she said while signing the final documents. I could have, I admitted. But closure was worth more than cash. Besides, the look on his face at the gala? Priceless. Fairfield Financial Partners placed him on indefinite leave 48 hours after my speech. By week 3, he'd been encouraged to resign. Claire Donovan's fate was even harsher. She's now juggling SEC inquiries and a tragically doomed Instagram cooking channel dedicated to breakfast art. Her first post, a unicorn pancake tutorial, was instantly flooded with comments about fraud and money laundering. My therapist says I should stop checking them. I haven't. Those suspicious transfers? Exactly what they looked like, an amateur embezzlement attempt masked by shell firms. Ethan swore ignorance, insisting Claire acted alone. Maybe he's telling the truth. Or maybe he's just trying to preserve the ashes of his dignity. Either way, he's now working at his old roommate's small firm in Rhode Island, dating a pharmaceutical sales rep named Sabrina who, according to Lila, makes regular circle pancakes. Progress, I suppose. Meanwhile, Luminous magazine saw a 32% spike in subscriptions after a clip of my speech went viral. Apparently, readers adore editors who expose hypocrisy in real time. 14 speaking invitations followed, all centered on authentic leadership and crisis integrity. The irony isn't lost on me. I planned my revenge with the precision of a Bond villain. Helen, former mother-in-law, still calls occasionally, draped in faux concern. People make mistakes, Sylvie, she sighed during her last attempt. Gerald and I have been married 41 years despite his indiscretions. Yes, that's fascinating, Helen, I replied sweetly. But I prefer not to define success by the number of resentful anniversaries. She hasn't called since. The surprise twist? Ethan's genuine effort to rebuild his relationship with Lila. He never misses visitation, brings thoughtful gifts, and even completed parenting classes voluntarily. Last weekend he cheered at her soccer game. No phone, no distractions, as if he'd finally learned presence. Yesterday at drop-off he apologized. Not the manipulative kind but real remorse. I destroyed something valuable for something worthless, he said quietly. I know we can't go back, but I hope someday you'll forgive me. I already have, I told him, and to my own surprise it was true. Not for you. For me. Carrying anger is heavy work, and I have a magazine to run and a daughter to raise. He smiled faintly. You're thriving. It looks good on you. Revenge glow, I shrugged. Better than any facial. The truth is some catastrophes clear the ground for better things. Like a forest fire that devastates, yet makes space for new growth. My marriage was the blaze. What rose from it was clarity. A life without quiet compromises or weaponized peace. Lila, for her part, asks fewer questions now. Her therapist says she's adjusting beautifully, resilient in a way only children can be. Last week she announced, I'm going to be a lawyer like Auntie Camille, to help people get away from bad pancakes. We're still refining her metaphors. This morning I made her breakfast. Heart-shaped pancakes sprinkled with rainbow sugar. She looked up between bites and asked, Mommy, are you still sad about Daddy? No, sweetheart, I answered. I'm not sad. Sometimes things don't turn out the way we plan, but that doesn't mean they can't turn out well. She considered this solemnly, then grinned. Your pancakes are better anyway. They have sprinkles. Unicorns aren't even real. Out of the mouths of babes, the wisdom adults spend fortunes in therapy to find. The lesson isn't that marriage is fragile, or that men are unreliable, or that revenge is sweet. Though watching Claire Donovan escorted from the yacht club by security remains one of my fondest memories. The real lesson is about resilience, about how losing what we thought we needed can reveal what we truly deserve. Sometimes the most painful endings are the start of the most honest lives. Or, as I wrote in my recent Luminous editorial, the most valuable breakfasts aren't shaped like mythical creatures, they're built on real nourishment. That piece won us an industry award. Ethan sent flowers. I donated them to a nursing home. Life goes on. And sometimes if you're lucky it goes on far better with or without unicorn pancakes. Pancake revenge.